Welcome to the Two Wealth Show, a show that shares how you can create real wealth for you and your family. I'm one of your hosts, Justin Bogard, and my co-host is Elizabeth Sickles, aka Super E. I am a real estate note investor, specializing in performing residential real estate debt. I find the deals, acquire them for my own portfolio, as well as educate investors while walking them through the process of owning a real estate note. My co-host Super E, a real estate investor, specializing in short-term rentals and the management of them. She connects investors with short-term tenants and manages everything in between. Our show is sponsored by BrightPath Notes and Elizabeth Mayora. You can find out more information by visiting our websites at brightpathnotes.com and elizabethmayora.com. Hey everybody, this is Justin Bogard from BrightPath Notes, co-host on the Two Wealth Show.
And I am Elizabeth with Elizabeth May. Excuse me. So I'll do that over. I am Elizabeth with Elizabeth Mayora.
Don't you
Welcome
love these?
to episode number 21.
21. All right. It's okay to fumble, Elizabeth. I'm sure I've done it a couple of times, didn't realize it. Just so you guys know, listening or watching on YouTube, we don't really edit a lot of things out. So you're kind of getting what we give you, you know.
That's right.
Cut.
We like to be natural.
Take 45, ready, go.
That's right.
So how have you been?
I've been good. We've got a lot of things going on, which is exciting. Yeah, looking at new software, on the good side. Yeah, so, we're always interested in being more efficient, both obviously for the team and anything that will make it better for our guests.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I myself am trying to figure out, like, we have a piece of software that somebody kind of custom made for us that was in the real estate no business. And I'm ready for like additional features to be added on and start pulling in automation with different reports and documents. Because in the note business, there's just a lot of paperwork involved in it. And paperwork is crucial to have basically 100% accuracy, because once it leaves your hand and it's signed with a wet signature, it's a really pain in the butt to go back and amend it or fix it or correct it. And that's a process you don't want to have to go through. You can do it, just so everyone knows. It is an easy fix. It's just time consuming, and things can get lost in the weeds pretty quickly. So that's what I've been working on as well, is figuring out if I can get somebody to program a few documents just to pull data from our database, so we don't have to manually type it in again. Just for our agreements and things like that, and how we convey documents from owner to owner.
You know what's interesting, Justin, is we had, PMS, which is a property management system. We had the number one in the vacation rental industry, and I put that on hold in May, just, with everything going on. Yeah. So we implemented it last year. It was very time consuming, very expensive. And what's interesting is that, like I said, it's been on hold since May. So we're doing more things manually, but we're actually quicker. Like doing our profit and loss statements at the end of the month for our clients. We're quicker doing it ourselves, and we're more efficient. So it's kind of interesting that, I spent all this money for us to have this software, and we're better without it. So I would just, kind of caution our viewers and our listeners that, software sounds great, right? And it sounds fantastic to have, and I'm all about technology, but at the end of the day, and I wouldn't have known that. I'm glad that we went through the exercise, and at any time we can turn it back on, but just kind of keep that in mind too. It's not always better.
That's really interesting. I've heard of that happening to people before at different companies, but I was just going to say, you answered what I was going to say. Was I'm sure that you were glad that you went through that process, so you can compare it and be like, well, we're doing it the same way, and we're obviously meeting our metrics where we need to be, versus having the software do it for us. But that's good that you went through it. I mean, I guess it's a pain that it has to cost you some money, but like you said, you can turn it back on if you need to in the future. So,
And even now on the cleaning side of the business, we were looking at a lot of different softwares because with the residential cleaning, we want our clients to be able to book online. And, again, that's just efficient. We don't have to go to the actual property, quote it. So that's really cool. But even on that side, I'm holding off a little bit on the software to make sure that we're good in some other areas first. So sometimes you want to be really quick at things, but sometimes waiting a little bit is better.
well, that's good. So is that same system you have, is it like a CRM type of system, a customer, I think it's relationship management system as well? Or is it just for the crucial business tools?
It's just for the crucial business.
Okay.
And I apologize. I was just looking around. For some reason, my screen got really dim.
Oh, I can still see you just fine. So,
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Sorry about that, gang.
It's just technology. As soon as you mention technology, your computer shut down on you. You can't talk bad about
it. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So Elizabeth, I think one of the things that we both want to tackle today was just talking about kind of the positive and the negatives going on, either specific to our companies or even within our industries as to what's going on right now. And I thought we both thought that would be a fun topic to kind of talk about. So I would like you to kind of lead in on this to talk about just some of the not so positive things, kind of negative things that are going on either, to the business or to the industry as well as of, today, which is we're recording this at the end of October, just so the audience knows.
Yes. So we want to be, part of our mission at Elizabeth Mayora is being authentic. So, in that we talk about the not so good things. And one of the things that's really unfortunate is you all know that we're running a really cool rehab in the Irvington neighborhood. And something that we found out last week was that we are most likely going to have to remove the existing siding, which includes asbestos siding from the property. That comes with a whole lot of remediation, and then put on what would have been original wood siding. So we're getting quotes for all of that. But at any rate, we're looking at an additional $10,000 to $25,000.
Wow.
So it's huge, absolutely huge. So anytime you're dealing with a historic district, or, historic permitting and stuff like that, it can be quite expensive.
Yeah, I've heard of that before. I personally haven't done, any sort of remodel or rehab in a historic district, but I have heard exactly what you said, that it's just, it's so beautiful when it's done and everything is as authentic or original as it can be. But yeah, you can't take any shortcuts, can you? It's all about following that process, and it has to be these certain windows. And like you just said, with the asbestos, you got to put up, this sort of siding now when you take that off. And it's there for a reason, but yeah, you have to anticipate those unknown costs, going into it. And I can see a lot of people getting floored because of it.
Absolutely. And so I just want to encourage all of our followers that if you are doing a rehab, most people say, hey, add 10%, but I would encourage you to add 25 to 30% of whatever you think is a worst case.
Wow.
Yes, it's very unfortunate.
So this is probably another reason why my strong suit isn't being a rehabber, because I don't know how people in the fix and flip business are making good profits on things right now, especially on the homes that are under, I would say, probably 125,000, all in. It doesn't seem like, with the stuff that you're describing, maybe it's not in a historical district, but if it's just in a typical area, there still are things that you have to, rules and things you have to go by, right? With permits and stuff. And, once you get into something with electrical or plumbing, then you have to have, different permitting. Then you have to pull the whole thing out and change it over, especially if it's knob and tube. And so it can get real dicey real quick. So it's something that I've done before, but I definitely wasn't built for it like a company. So my hat's off to the people that make it happen, but I don't see how good the margins are. So maybe I'm not seeing it as profitable as it really is. But it doesn't seem to me that things are that profitable with the fix and flip business, because the real estate values are so high, but they're also selling so high when they're dilapidated or blighted, if you will.
And that's why it's always important to know your numbers.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for, right? Are you buying hold? Are you looking at appreciation, which that's where you build your wealth. You don't build it whenever you're flipping properties all the time. But, the clients bought it at a really good price. So they're still going to be okay. Good. But still, this is timing, right? Which adds to their holding costs and everything. And one of the things too, there's that saying that there's always a way. But I have made a ton of phone calls also. And man, when INHP says you're going to do it one way, like you're going to do it that way, or you're not going to do it at all. So, right. So no matter where you're doing your flips, or even if it's a buy and hold and you're remodeling it, just make sure you know the rules and kind of the things that could happen.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, just for the acronym INHP, is that Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Provider or Partnership?
Indianapolis Housing Provider, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and just one thing too, Justin, and for our listeners, it's kind of interesting because we have a second floor where we moved the master up to the second floor, and actually our person now is also saying that we might need to have skylights. Part of egress. So egress means that you can get out of the building, which there would not be skylights in a historical property. And
if Spider-Man and Spider-Pig and Spider-Girl were living there, maybe that would make sense, right? Because they could just climb on the ceiling and get out that way. That was a bad joke. I'm sorry. Somebody has to be laughing listening to this right now. I know. That doesn't make any sense to me, but hey, a lot of things don't make sense to me. Doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. It just doesn't make sense. That is funny though. I've not heard of that. So egress windows on the skylight.
So, we don't know how our guests would actually get up to the egress window, because that's kind of the point of egress, is it's an easy way out.
You're not providing like an 18-foot telescoping ladder?
We provide ladders that go out the window on anything that's 2 floors and above, but so you never know what you're going to run into in the housing business.
That's interesting.
So,
well,
so
go ahead.
No. Oh, I was just going to say, how about you? What's something good or bad going on in the note business that maybe our listeners wouldn't think of?
Well, maybe a couple of things. I guess I would touch on maybe the I wouldn't call it the pink elephant in the room, is, the mortgage and the rental industry as it relates to people paying on the debt or the rent. It is assumed that it's a bad situation. And I believe, I know that the media and the Facebook community of people that aren't really tied into the business are really giving it a negative spin and making it look like it's a lot worse than it is. We've talked about this a couple of times on a couple of different episodes, and the facts still remain that the numbers, even for the rent data and the mortgage borrower payment data, still show strong signs that tenants and borrowers are still making payments. And not only are they making payments, but more people are making payments. And I would argue that it's in the 80 to 85% tenant collection range. And it's in the high 80s to low mid 90s for the borrowers making their mortgage payments, as it relates to the whole national spectrum, not just isolated like the Indianapolis or the pockets of, maybe where we invest in specifically. But there is a lot of misinformation out there, and it's unfortunate because some people just get one media stream of information, and it really can confuse the mind as to what's going on. But I would say that's probably the biggest thing going on in our industry as far as that. Us as a business, we have our challenges too. We have, right now our software isn't really capable of doing a lot of high-end things like we touched at the beginning of the conversation today. And so one of the struggles that we have kind of internally is just being able to do what we call post-closing, which is after we purchase a real estate note or we sell a real estate note, there's quite a bit of documentation that has to follow it, because you're recording some things and some things you're not recording. And you want to be able to collect those things from a seller, and you want to make sure that you have everything that you need to keep in your collateral file. Because as you know, Elizabeth, the worst case scenario is going through foreclosure. And when you go in front of a judge, or your attorney goes in front of the judge, you just want to have all of your documentation that you need to go there. And sometimes it can be a little challenging to get all that information, organized and complete. It's not that you can't get it; it's just sometimes it's challenging. So I guess that's one of the struggles that we have when we close a lot of loans. It starts to become, you really have to pay attention to what we're collecting and make sure things are moving down the line, because our investors that work with us, they're not everyday note investors like myself. They're looking for passive income and looking for ways to grow their wealth, and we want to teach them and show them those things. So then we kind of offer assistance and look, let us just help you get through this first deal. There's a lot of things that you just don't know what you don't know, and we want you to benefit from our knowledge and experience and get you through to getting that first payment and making sure you have what you need going forward, because we're always a resource for them as well. But at the same time, that's a struggle, a little bit of a struggle in itself, because I haven't found an efficient way to do it. There's just a way to get it done. And it's just one of those things that you just got to tackle and figure out. If there was thousands and thousands of people that have a real estate note business, maybe somebody would have, a piece of software or something figured out with a process, kind of like with real estate brokers, they have really good systems and processes for handling, title closings and paperwork and stuff. So one of these days, I'm sure the note business will get to that point, but that's probably one of the biggest struggles, to where you just really have to be laser focused, is you can't really make an error, right? If you make an error, you don't want to discover it 10 years down the road. You'd rather just get it fixed right then and there and take it forward. So that's kind of one of the things that's my sticking point, is that I make sure, like, when we buy a deal or sell a deal, that paperwork is just 100% accurate to the best of our knowledge, and get it moving forward so the next person doesn't have any struggles.
And what is the shortest time that, one of your clients, so 2 questions. What's the shortest amount of time one of your clients holds a note? And what's the longest time, just average?
Typically, our clients are at least wanting to have this stuff for, 5 to 10 years in their portfolio. We tell them, on average, someone is either refinancing or selling their home every 7 to 9 years. So we know ultimately, it's not guaranteed, but these mortgages are going to pay off well before their maturity date. And that's really when they're going to recycle their cash and make a better yield on their money, as opposed to looking, 25 years down the road in the future. So some clients investors prefer to do partials and recoup their investment maybe a little bit earlier if they can sell it to another family member or friend. And some just like to hold on to it and just build their wealth. I mean, I'd say most of them want to hold it and just let it grow until they actually reach retirement and they have a sizable amount of cash flow coming in, to where it's, they can live off of a little bit of it, and the rest of it they can just recycle and let it continue to grow with buying more notes and stuff.
Okay.
So I guess in the short sense, I'd say maybe 5 years. In the long sense, it's just building the wealth, I don't know if I showed you our 10-year model, but we projected, with a $200,000 investment, what that looks like after 10 years, just rolling it into notes and never really touching it or adding to it, and just letting it build on its own. And then watching the exponential growth is pretty cool. So we're actually building a video to showcase how that looks in a more, video friendly format, I guess. So it's not like a presentation. It's just, more cartoony and visual, but it's pretty cool. It shows the power of performing loans.
And then, sorry, so one of your clients, do you do that automatically for them, reinvesting it, or how does that work?
It kind of depends. We have different buckets that investors fall into. We have extremely passive investors that just look, Justin, I got a full-time job. I run a company. I don't really need to learn the note business. I just want to benefit from it. And then they're in one category, to where we kind of help them and help manage what they're doing, obviously for a fee in consulting work. Then we have people that want to take title to it and want to own it and take accountability for it. And and they get this paperwork and they run through it themselves. But I'm always here as a resource for them. They're not in the dark trying to figure it out on their own, or, God bless them. They all try to figure it out on the internet, and, you can only get what you pay for with, free information on the internet. So it's just, there's a lot of things that people do that aren't really what you should do or really how you should think, as far as investing in this stuff. But, when they land with us, we just tell them with our experience, this is what happens when we buy this type of note, and you're probably going to get these results. And we're pretty accurate with that.
That's great. And, it's nice that you do have the couple of different buckets that your clients fit into. So,
yeah, I mean, everybody we talk to, they have a different end game in mind, right? Just like the people that you talk to, Elizabeth, and when you raise money and stuff, everyone is looking for a different type of return, or they need to accommodate their lifestyle of where they want to be. And so we can accommodate that by partnering with them in different ways, whether it's just selling them something and they're on their own, which is perfectly fine, or partnering with them, or maybe selling them part of a loan that we have and we own the back end and we're kind of in there with them. There's just different ways to do it. And obviously the higher the activity, the higher the reward, right? But you're also, banking on the fact that you kind of know a little bit what you're doing too. So there's kind of a give and take there. So most clients end up working with us. We kind of walk them through the process. We buy a few deals for them, and eventually they start getting more comfortable with taking more steps on their own. And then hopefully eventually they can start doing this stuff on their own and not really have to worry about it, unless they have these anomalies that pop up and they need help getting through something. But that's generally what happens, is we kind of are tailored for the first time investor.
Okay. That's awesome. And obviously you're rolling. So what's something good in the business?
Well, right now we've talked about this before in a few podcasts back in early March, how seller financing is so strong. It's still strong today. And there's a lot of burned out landlords right now. And a lot of them are discovering that they like the idea of being the bank better, but they not sure how to make it turn their rental situation into kind of a mortgage cash flowing situation. And so what's good about the business that we're in is that we can help, bridge the gap with what they're trying to do. So we can show them how to convert, tenants into borrowers and creating note and mortgages, them stepping back and being the bank. And there's just been more and more of those opportunities this year that I've seen in the, the last, 3 or 4 years that I've really been focused in this business. And so that's a good sign to me that we're all creating better loans, and I'm teaching people how to create really good loans so that they can sell them in the future if they want, and they won't have to take such a hefty discount in the future when they sell it to somebody.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but everything is looking pretty good in the mortgage business right now. Our default rate is below 7%. It's been that way for about 2 months now, which is a positive sign. It's slowly creeping down. The Black Knight Financial data, they're a company that basically takes all the mortgage data across the country and they aggregate it, and they figure out these numbers based on tons of different metrics. And they're predicting that this is just going to be a very slow taper of default rate, getting back down to normalcy, which is probably around the 4.5% window, right around there. And so they predict it's probably going to take about 18 months to get back down to whatever normal is, maybe sooner. But they're predicting based on what's been happening last 3 months on a 3-month base window that it's just going to take a long time to get back down there. But the good news is that we don't see a reason for defaults to go up. We just see it just slowly tapering back down. So there's going to be an opportunity in the future for some non-performing loans to roll through. Everyone keeps asking me, like, when are they going to happen? We don't know because banks hold on to this debt for a certain amount of time so they can charge it down and they can recoup some of their insurance on it. And so there's a whole process with the bank industry. Then they're going to sell it to someone that's got a heck of a lot more money than any of us have, billions of dollars. And then they're going to sell it off to someone with a little bit less money, and so on and so forth. So that takes a while to get down to where we can start buying this stuff. But that's probably, maybe next year around this time, we'll probably have a different conversation.
That's great news. I just saw this morning, actually. So again, we're recording this the very end of October, but this morning, one of the articles I read was that we're down to the same jobless or the unemployment rate as we were in March. So that's nationwide. That's not just the state of Indiana. So that's federal, and that's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So so that kind of goes right in with what you're saying, Justin. So it's nice that those are correlating.
So I think, and I know we're running out of time on this episode, but I think quickly that we should also point out, and I'm sure you agree with me on this, is that the reason why we haven't been as negatively affected in any of our industries as it relates to real estate is because the fact that real estate values have been so resilient during this time. They either been consistent or they have still been rising. So what that does is it creates what we call tappable equity in people's homes. So even if somebody has to go through forbearance, even if they're struggling, their equity is still rising every month by, whatever, a fraction of a percent or a percent, depending on what area you're in. And so that creates an opportunity for them to escape that potential default situation and refinance, because how low are the numbers right now? The numbers are historically low for refinances. So go out, get yourself a 3% refinanceable loan. You can refinance out of that debt, maybe lower that payment or extend, payments to the back of the loan, and you can get out of this forbearance. So a lot of these numbers that I've been showing people, like there's been about, I'd say 35% to 40% of the forbearances that happened. Maybe there was like 4 or 5 million that happened since March. Those have been reperforming because of that tappable equity that they have. They're able to escape that. They can sell the house and not be underwater, and they can refinance and still be okay and still meet their loan to values. So I think that's a major reason why we have not seen a really bad real estate situation, is because of how resilient real estate has been.
Wow, that's a really great point, Justin. Thank you for making that. And totally agree.
Yeah. So I don't think we touched on, kind of the positives going on in the short-term world or in Elizabeth Mayora's world.
So one of the things that's really interesting is, which I've been talking a lot on the podcast, that know your numbers, because when you're building a business, you're in the business, you're not working on the business. So this year I've been able to step back a little bit and actually look at my numbers and what are they saying. So one of the things that actually Caitlin and I just went through this morning, we had an opportunity to be a host and property manager of, I'll just call it multiple. So it was more than 5 properties here in Indianapolis. They're nice properties. But when we actually look at the numbers, it's not worth it. So what's better for us is a very nice one property that's very, very nice. It doesn't have to be luxury, but just, again, just really nice. So it's nice to be able to actually step back and do that analysis beforehand, to be able to tell our clients, what, we'd love to have these properties and add them to our portfolio, but it's not a fit.
Yeah.
So, and when you do that, just so you know, we've come up with a couple of solutions for them. We don't ever want to just tell somebody no.
Right.
But it's such a great feeling as the business owner, to be able to take that step back and, because yes, I am working on the business in this aspect.
Excellent.
So,
excellent.
Yeah, that would just happen this morning. So it's nice when you get to that point. So just know, if you're just starting in real estate, or no matter where you are in some type of a business, that you will get there. So just, keep up the hard work and get to the point where you can be working on the business.
Yeah, it's just that steady motion of just make sure you're moving forward in that direction, and you will get there. Yeah, some people it takes 25 years. Some people it can be really quick. But that's definitely the point that you strive for. So, Elizabeth, I think we are out of time for today. Do you have any closing thoughts for today's episode number 21?
We are into the fall here. So I was in Indiana. So I would just, if you can, take some time to have some hot chocolate or a cup of coffee and just watch the leaves fall for a little bit and enjoy the beautiful colors.
It is my favorite time of the year is fall. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody.
Yep. All right, everybody. I'm Justin Bogard from Bright Path Notes, co-host on the Two Wealth Show. Don't forget to watch the video of this on the Bright Path Notes YouTube channel or Elizabeth Mayora's YouTube channel as well.
That's right. Thank you, everybody. I'm Elizabeth with Elizabeth Mayora, Justin's co-host.
Yeah. All right. Episode 21 in the books, guys. Till next time. See you later.
Bye.
The Two Wealth Show is produced by Justin Bogard and Super E, sponsored by Bright Path Notes and Elizabeth Mayora. Thanks for listening and watching for our show.